Yeah. Tommy said. That really how it. There, that's. You should. What play? I have my. Yeah. Well, I would say it's also like junior.
I now call this meeting of the Kansas State University Student Governing Association Student Senate to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to begin our Student Senate meeting taking place on Thursday, February 9th, 2023, with a land acknowledgement. We recognize that Kansas State University, as the first land-grant institution, stands on the ancestral lands of the Kaw people. Our state of Kansas is home to 4 federally recognized Native nations: the Iowa, Kickapoo, Prairie Band Potawatomi, and Sac and Fox. We must remember that the land serving as the foundation for this institution was and still is stolen land acquired by white settlers. We pledge our commitment to creating decolonized spaces at the university while advocating for the support and future success of Indigenous faculty, staff, and students at K-State. And with that, Speaker Pro Tem Pineda Gomez will take it away with our first roll call.
Thanks, Evan, and good evening, everyone. Anderson.
Here.
Bannister.
Here.
Barron. Bellamy.
Here.
Flood.
Here.
Broughton.
Here.
Brown. Compton.
Here.
Foy.
Here.
Cuesta.
Here.
Dennis. DePaz.
Here.
Dole.
Here.
Griffith.
Here.
Heatherman. Hoffman.
Here.
Upding.
Here.
Hammond.
Here.
Appleman.
Here.
Pershing. Kidd.
Here.
Fermers.
Here.
Enzi.
Here.
Long.
Here.
Midall. Morello. Murphy.
Here.
Moretti. Navarro.
Here.
O'Malley.
Here.
Lowry. Helton.
Here.
Phillips.
Here.
Pilchard.
Here.
Mondillo.
Here.
Rogers. Syat Carly.
Here.
Syat Nick. Salmon. Schweier. Spindler.
Here.
Stout.
Here.
Stroud. Suchanek.
Here.
Alpert.
Here.
Timmon.
Here.
Thomas.
Here.
Volgamore.
Here.
And Wolf. Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. With that, we will go ahead and move into our first open period. We have a couple first open period speakers this evening, but first up, we have Marissa Lux and Abby Goins here from Senator Moran's office. And Abby, whose office are you from?
Representative Tracy Mann.
Representative Tracy Mann's office, talking to us about some Capitol Hill internship opportunities.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Marissa Lux. I'm a legislative correspondent for Senator Moran and intern coordinator. And this week we kind of are doing a little Kansas trip for the intern programs for both of our offices. I am an SGA has-been, so good to see some familiar faces. If we haven't met, I started out freshman year as an intern in the SGA intern program, and then my sophomore year was Arts and Sciences Senator, and then my junior year I was Communications Director, and then senior year I was able, well, this is, can I say? Okay, last year I was campaign manager for Parker and Jeff's campaign. So that's kind of my SGA history, so feels really good to be back in the chambers. Yeah.
I have my own microphone, so. Hey, everybody, don't know me. My name's Abby Goins. I am a K-State grad in Ag Econ, graduated with Marissa last year. I'm a legislative aide for Congressman Mann, who represents the Big First District. If you're not familiar, stretches all the way from Elkhart in Southwest Kansas, all the way to Lawrence now, thanks to redistricting last spring. So I'm really excited to be here with you guys tonight to talk about our internship program. Just a little more about what I do. I handle environment, energy, water, interior, homeland defense, military and veterans for the congressman. So quite the array. But if you're interested in any of those things or want to talk more about Congressman Mann, specifically, happy to do that after Senate, but otherwise, I think we're just going to chat about our intern program. So if you want to start.
Yeah, I forgot to say my issue areas in case you guys have interest and want to talk more. So my policy areas that I focus on would be DOJ and judiciary. So that would be all the agencies, so law enforcement, Second Amendment, crime, narcotics. Well, I said law enforcement, and then sports. So those are kind of my areas if you have any interest and want to chat more. But so I have a presentation, but everything kind of overlaps. So it does say Senator Moran's name, but the internships are very similar. So we can go ahead, and I have a little video about interning on Capitol Hill.
For me this summer, as a sophomore going to be a junior, I really sought an experience that was outside of my comfort zone.
I had a couple of friends that I knew through Student Senate that actually had interned on the Hill, and one of them had interned in Moran's office, and she talked about it all the time.
And then when I thought of the opportunity of maybe interning here, I jumped on the opportunity as soon as possible.
What I've enjoyed doing most so far in the Senate is getting to know the staffers here for Senator Moran.
One of my favorite parts is just sitting in on a lot of their meetings with people with different ag interests, talking about their issues. It is definitely what has been the most enjoyable for me thus far.
Just seeing how some of the staff handles the meetings was really cool and a great experience, great learning experience overall.
I think what I've enjoyed most about working in the Senate was really this idea that you're getting a look behind the curtain about what's going on Capitol Hill.
I've really enjoyed taking constituent phone calls because Hansons call and they're really passionate about these issues. So they take the time out of their day to call us, just writing them down, getting all their contact information and relaying that back to the senator.
I got to attend breakfast with Senator Moran along with a lot of my fellow interns, and that was really cool to get to hear personally from him, and he wants to get to know you and what your goals are.
He talked about, being an intern during the Watergate scandal. So, that was fascinating, just that human aspect, that Senator Moran started out like one of us.
I think for me, what's been most surprising or something that I didn't necessarily expect when starting to work on the Hill was how my involvement working within Senator Moran's office has really humanized politics in a way that I didn't really expect.
And Senator Moran staffers, it's really like a family in there, which is really cool to be a part of.
What I've enjoyed most would be getting tours. As far as that goes, being able to walk around the Capitol freely, as well as getting more knowledge about the Capitol to constituents of Jerry Moran.
I heard Vice President Mike Pence will sometimes come and shake people's hands in the Capitol, so I'm hoping I'll get lucky.
So much to do in DC. I've hit all the major stuff, the monuments, some of the museums that people talk about.
Another really meaningful experience for all the interns is that several interns as well as staff got to run a 5K. We got to meet, shake hands with Secretary of the Army, Mark Esper. And that was really meaningful for all of us because it really speaks to what this internship offers, which is the opportunity to meet really influential people within Washington that have so much impact on what goes on around us. Something that I'm sure I'll take away from my experience interning for the Senate.
So that's kind of a little video of past interns and their experiences, but we'll go a little bit more into depth in the next slide. So day-to-day intern tasks I have up there. We have the biggest thing for probably both of our offices would be greeting and interacting with constituents. So as an intern, you are in the front office and you are in charge of anyone who's coming in, whether that's a family who's touring the Capitol or a meeting with the senator, a meeting on the staff level. You get to meet them, which is kind of the best position to be in because you get to meet all these people in the office and then send them off to their meetings. And then at the end of the day, you're like, wow, look at all these cool people I've met and connections that you've made. And then also constituent phone calls. So people call in the office all the time, whether they need help with casework things, or maybe they don't want the senator or congressman to vote a certain way. And then we take all of those calls and make sure they get to where they should be going.
Yeah, so the other cool thing that a lot of interns enjoy doing, and I think we have a few past congressional interns in the room and they would attest. I'm looking at you, Caleb. It's getting to give constituents or interest groups Capitol tours. So you get to become an expert on our nation's Capitol building and House office buildings, know all of the secret ways to get through the tunnels or to go, under the House floor and find the sit-in bathtubs and all of that cool stuff. And then be the person who gets to give constituents their first experience in the Capitol. And it's really special to be able to shape the story that folks hear about our capital and where history has been made and where history lives. So that's really exciting.
Another thing that's awesome about these internships is, yes, you're doing those day-to-day operations and tasks, but you also can focus on an area. So if you're specifically interested in journalism and the press side, we have a whole press team that you could kind of work alongside and ask for more projects. If you are interested, so like for an example, for me, when I interned in summer of 21, I was interested in immigration issues. And so I went to the immigration staffer and asked to be able to go to the briefings, write memos for the senator, and they let me do that. And now full circle, now I'm the immigration staffer. So a lot of cool opportunities that can lead to bigger opportunities.
Yeah, I'll just share a couple examples of projects that we have interns do. So yes, we have interns attend briefings and take notes for us and attend committee hearings for us, but also help with a lot of writing in our office. So whether you want to do more of the comm side and want to practice, writing press releases or speeches for the congressman to give on the House floor, we let interns try their hand at all of that, but also have them help us write, memos for the congressman that he specifically requested, and that will be sent home with him to review on the plane. Or last week I had my intern help me write a letter to USDA to ask them about a vacancy and just ask them really important questions about why a regulated, position wasn't filled. And so those are really cool experiences that you get to leave and you get to say, this letter was sent to USDA and I got to work on it, or this speech was given on the House floor and I now have a clip on C-SPAN of like words that I helped craft being spoken. So it's cool.
And then at the top corner, our internship sessions. So both of our summer internship applications are open now. They close in the middle of March. And then we also have fall early decision internship applications open now, but we do have an internship year round. And so if you wanted to take a semester in DC, you could totally do that, spend the summer. We both spent the summer in DC, and then both also worked in the state offices. So we have, Senator Moran has 6 state offices and then the DC office, and we offer internships in all 6 of those.
We have offices in Dodge City and here in Manhattan. And so we offer up to 2 spots during the fall, spring, and summer for interns to be placed there. And then we have the same 3, sessions of internships for the DC office as well. And we take up to 3 at a time in our DC office at the moment. So I think the cool thing to think about when you are trying to figure out where you want to be, what office you want to be in, or like what physical location you want to be in, is to just really think about what kind of experience you want. And if you want more of a legislative or communications experience, going to DC is kind of the more obvious pick. But if you're really passionate about service and like interacting with constituents and helping them with their issues in the state or like casework, that's more of a state internship experience, and both are fantastic. I think for us, it took us having both experiences to really find out that we wanted to stick with the Hill. But definitely recommend either, and happy to share more information about it. I'll leave I think we'll both probably leave some flyers in the back, maybe on that back table, if you want more information later.
And next. Oh yeah. So how to apply. Our application processes are a little different, but similar, so we'll kind of touch on them. For Senator Moran's application, you just need the resume, cover letter, transcript, and then 2 letters of rec. So that cover letter is kind of where you get to kind of show your personality and highlight a policy of interest and something you either want changed or you want the senator to look at more. And so that's really where you can stand out in the application process, is find something that you're passionate about and write about it. Because as intern coordinators and staff, we want to see your ideas and kind of what you're hoping to get out of an internship, because the whole idea behind the internship is to figure out if you like doing it, learn new things, and then grow from that experience.
Yeah, so ours are a little bit different. We request a resume as well and 2 letters of recommendation. Those letters of recommendation, I know a lot of people get stressed out about like who to ask. Just ask the people that like genuinely know you and can speak to your lived experience and to your character, as well as some skills that might be applicable to the internship. So want to be able to see that you're hardworking, that you're service oriented, and that you're willing to go the extra mile, that kind of thing. So don't be too stressed about the name that's on the letter of rec. Focus on the content and what they'll actually be able to say about you. And then we ask for an online application. So it's just a Google form. It's pretty straightforward, just learning more about you and your interests and why you care about policy. And then instead of a cover letter, we ask for an issue essay. So just a page or 2 about an issue that's important to you that you really care about. Once again, like I'm not looking for you to talk about the most important issue or the hottest button issue. I'm asking for you to talk about something that you really care about, something that you're passionate about and that shows up in your writing and that you've clearly researched and can talk, speak well to, and also think critically about. And at the end of the day, it's just making sure that you can put together a good sentence and would then be able to write well for us in the office.
And then I have some fun pictures just to kind of show the internship, because we could talk about it all day, but I think pictures for me kind of get to show the personalities. So our office does like staff field trips. So we went to the DEA. So there's one of our interns who's now a caseworker full-time in the office. And then we have just some other events. You do get to go into the rotunda and go on the dome of the Capitol with the senator during your internship, which is a really cool experience. You can only do that with a member of Congress. And then you do get sworn in as an intern. So you're like officially sworn into the Senate. And so that bottom picture is our current intern, Tom, which is like a fun random fact. And then we do like just different fun events. You can go to the next slide. Yeah. One of those pictures is with Congressman Mann's interns. So we do a lot of, that's the intern scavenger hunt. So we do get to collaborate a lot with the other members. And then the top left, we do have like softball leagues in the summer. So that's like a fun team bonding event outside of the office. You can kind of see there is a rainbow above the Capitol. So it was just, again, an epic day. I think Caleb could second that. And then you get to go for breakfast or lunch with the senator. That's what that bottom picture is. And so really just wanted to highlight all of the cool opportunities that are given, but also the personal touch that the senator and congressman add to the internship. They know you by name, they interact with you, they want to know your goals, they want to help you. And to me, that was one of the reasons why I loved it so much and wanted to come back, is because of my boss. And then you'll see the bottom picture. We have both senators, and then those Parker and JW were both Flinchbaugh fellows, and so they got to do a little reception with that. So a lot of K-State connections in DC.
Yeah, no, I would just echo all of that. I think Marissa and I are both folks that weren't sure that congressional work was for us. I don't think either of us really had a congressional internship on our radar before like second semester of junior year. And then here we are like working on the Hill. So I think that is a testament to both of our bosses and to the staff that we work with. Representative Mann is new-ish to Congress. He is just now entering his second term, which is really exciting place to be. And we're a small staff. House offices have pretty small staffs. So there's like 15 of us spread out across the 3 offices. So what that means for potentially you is that interns in our office get a lot of really cool experiences, because we need you, because there's a lot of work to be done. And so we want to make sure that it's meaningful. Both of our bosses were interns first. Congressman Mann was actually Senator Moran's first intern, when Senator Moran was then representative of the Big First. And so we care a lot about the internship experience. We care a lot about making you feel like a valued part of the team. I don't have fun pictures to show you, but a lot of those experiences are ones that we have in our office as well. Every month, a member of our staff plans a fun outing for us, and interns are always included. Interns are asked their opinion and asked to collaborate, asked to sit in on all staff meetings, and to help make legislative recommendations, and your voice is really valued in both of our offices. So hope to see you out in DC, whether that's for one of our offices or something else. Happy to be a resource. Happy to connect you with folks, whether you're interested in office like ours or one on the other side of the aisle. What we really want to see is more K-Staters out there doing good work for our country. So I'll leave some of my cards, and if I can be of any help in any way, just let me know. If you guys know, this is my first Senate, I'll be honest. So like, I am feeling very honored to be here, but my roommate Lily was a member of SGA, Lily Colburn. And so if she can be of help too, I'm going to volunteer her as well. If you can just reach out to me and I'll put you in touch with her.
Yeah, so any questions? We'd be happy to answer.
Yeah, does anyone have any questions? Caucus Leader Kidd.
Yeah, thank you both for joining us tonight. I really do appreciate it. Can you both tell us something unexpected that's happened on the job that's been, either like a crazy story or like a really fun experience or anything that can further entice us?
A lot of really cool people come and visit senators. One that I've seen, Carol Baskin, she came to the Senate, but did not expect that. So I have a picture of me and Haley Hauer, who at the time we were interning together. We are like on a corner. So Carol is like in the hallway talking to another senator, and we're like, oh my gosh, like we've seen this all over Twitter, like she's on the Hill. And then she was in our hallway. And so we have like a picture of us peeking around the corner, like our picture with her, but like really she was all the way across the hallway. And then my other fun story is Bernie Sanders. He's 2 floors below us. And so see him all the time in the elevator. One time I had a full-on conversation about his avocado salad that he gets for lunch. So it's just really cool experiences that also just put a lot of things in perspective, but also just remind you that there are people just like us. They get avocado salads, and yeah, it's just a cool experience. You never know what you're going to see on the Hill, but those are 2 that come right to mind. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell one from my time in the state and one from DC. So I interned in DC for the summer of 21, and then I was asked to come back part-time as a staff aide in Manhattan. And so while I was doing that, I got to go to the state fair and staff the congressman there. And all of a sudden, next thing I knew, all of the staff and the congressman and his family, he has 4 kids, we're all headed to like the giant slide, like that you go down in Saks, and like we're just like in a train, like walking over there, and then like randomly saw my brother, who I didn't know was going to be at the state fair. And so I got to introduce him to the congressman, and then all of us went down this giant slide and took a video together. And it was just like one of those things that I never thought I'd be going down a slide with a member of Congress, but here we are. And then the second one is like not super funny, so it's going to be a bit of a change of speed, but the first time I gave a Capitol tour, our internship was during COVID regulation, so we didn't get to give a tour. So it was when I was out in DC full time. I took a meeting to meet the congressman in the Rayburn room of the Capitol, and at the end he was like, "Have you guys had a Capitol tour before?" And they were like, "No." He's like, "Oh, well, Abby would love to give you one. She'll go give you one right now." And I was like, "Sir, I haven't done this, but okay, like, let's go." And I got to give these guys a tour, and it was just so fun. They were so excited. And it's such a special space if you haven't been in the Capitol before. But the last stop that I always make is at a plaque in honor of 9/11 and Flight 93. And so got to like stop and talk to them about that, and talk to them about 9/11 and why that plaque was put there. And one of the guys that was on the tour with me, one of the people that he went to basic training with was on that flight. And so I like get goosebumps every time I tell a story, but it's just like so special, and like one of those things of the connections that you make with constituents and folks that come in are so special. And taking an extra 5 minutes to go to this plaque that's not on the tour route can really make a special opportunity. And those moments are filled every day with everybody that we interact with on the Hill. So that was a favorite memory.
Any other?
Yeah, Senator Bannister.
How many pies is Lily Colborn baking week right?
That is such a good question. Right now, not any. When she was interning / looking for a job, it was like at least 1 to 3. But now I don't know if you guys know, but she got a job with Representative Davids and she is her driver. So she has longer hours than I do. So I'm the pie baker in the house at the moment.
Any further questions? Caucus Leader Kidd.
Sorry, one more. So do both of your offices hire non-traditionally aged students, or do you guys typically trend with traditionally aged ones that have graduated or university?
Yeah, so we hire a variety of different ages. So we do hire undergrad and graduate students. We do have more opportunities of that in the state offices. So we have a few fellows in the state office that either previously had experience in government and wanted to come work for a few months in the state office. So yeah, that's definitely an opportunity.
Yeah, we're still like a new office, so we haven't yet had a like non-traditional age student, but definitely like open to it and just the normal application process. But we do have fellows, and I think like Marissa said, that's particularly an option in the state. So we have a defense fellow right now, Adrian.
Any further questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you both so much. And next up for our first open period this evening, we have Matthew Melcher here to talk to us about the K-State Rodeo.
Well, I appreciated the yeehaw. That was appropriate. I don't have a slideshow or anything. Just wanted to come kind of talk to you guys about the K-State Rodeo coming up. It'll be next weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We'd love to see you guys all there. One of the things we've really been working on the last couple of years is that a lot of students don't seem to know that we have a rodeo on campus. And the worst part about that for us is it's the largest student-sponsored activity on campus every year. So for 3 days, we'll bring about 12,000 people to Manhattan to watch the rodeo, and then we'll bring 400 to 500 rodeo athletes to campus from 16 different schools in Kansas and Oklahoma to Manhattan to Weber Arena. A lot of the athletes that compete end up going to professional rodeo. So it's a really good time to kind of go see some really good rodeo athletes, some really good events for not a super expensive price. So student tickets are $8 a piece. If you go get them at Call Hall has them on campus. If not, you can go get them at very appropriately Outpost or Yeehaw Outfitters. That's where you guys get tickets. Friday night, we'll have one at 7:30. Saturday, we'll have one at 1:30 and 7:30, which there's a basketball game against Iowa State that day. So I don't know how that works out for some of you guys. And then Sunday, we'll have another one we'll have Cowboy Church at, I believe 11. If you've never been to that, it's literally just church with a cowboy. Like, yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory. And then we have the rodeo after that at 1:30. I know the weather's not going to be great this coming like week and a half. So we do still put on the rodeo. We do still have to be out there. So myself and a couple others will probably be out there moving livestock about 4:35 in the morning for the rodeo that night at 7:30. So it always makes our days and our lives a little bit better when we see 3,500, 4,000 people in Weber Arena and doing the Wabash, wearing purple. So thank you guys for letting me come speak tonight. It's great to see you guys. And you have any questions?
Any questions? Awesome. Seeing none, thanks so much, Matthew.
Thank you.
Unless there are any further first open period speakers this evening, we will go ahead and move into approval of the minutes. The minutes were distributed on Tuesday along with the agenda and legislation tracking information. Are there any questions or corrections for the minutes? Senator Blood.
I have a few. First, on Bill 74, Chair Long moved to move that into introduction of legislation. Second, under special order, Resolution 56 should be titled as it is in introduction as KSU SGA support for free parking for Aggieville employees. And then under second open period, we had 3 speakers that were not listed. Senator Bannister spoke on the importance of proxy voting. Sheriff Phillips gave an SSF update and led the Student Senate in a rendition of Home on the Range. And Senator Heatherman spoke on legislation that impacts students.
Thanks, Brian. Are there any further questions or corrections for the minutes? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes? Chair Phillips.
I move to approve the minutes as amended. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes as amended. Are there any objections? Seeing none, the minutes will stand approved. And with that, we'll go ahead and move into announcements for the evening. So first up, I just once again included the Senate Executive Committee application on there. I realized I think I forgot to include the due date last time. So that form is going to close the Friday after the new Student Senate elects the new Speaker Pro Tempore. That'll be the Friday, March 31st. And the link is hyperlinked in the word this. And then if you're going to be absent from Student Senate, if you're going to be absent from Student Senate, you can fill out the proxy form. If you'll be physically absent but still able to attend Student Senate, you can fill out the Zoom request form. And if you want to give props to someone in Student Senate, you can fill out the Senate shout out form. And our SGA member of the week this week is Caden Phillips. Caden is an at-large member on the Student Allocations Committee and has done a great job writing a number of allocations and being a very active member of the committee. So thank you for your hard work, Caden. There's the upcoming events calendar, no changes there. And the quote of the week this week is, "Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world." And that is by Nelson Mandela. Chair Long.
There is no SAC meeting.
Slay. No SAC meeting on Sunday. Go Chiefs. All right. We'll go ahead and move into approval of appointments. Up first, we have Resolution 57. Is there a motion to consider Resolution 57? Caucus Leader Bellamy.
I move to consider resolution 57.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to consider Resolution 57. If the author will please come forward.
Resolution 22-23-57, approval of new student senator. Authors Bentley J. Talbert, sponsors Senate Operations Committee. Whereas there are currently 5 vacancies for the position of student senator for the graduate school, whereas the list of candidates from the 2022 KSU SGA general election has been exhausted, and whereas B. Dennis was nominated by the Graduate Student Council in its capacity to fill the vacancy. Be it resolved that Section 1, the following individual be approved as a student senator for the graduate school, B. Dennis.
Thanks, Bentley. Are there any questions or corrections for the author? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to approve Resolution 57 unanimously? Senator Griffith.
I move to approve resolution 57 unanimously.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Resolution 57 unanimously. Are there any objections? Seeing none, Resolution 57 will stand approved. And B, if you want to come on down, we'll get you sworn in. Okay, if you just want to raise your right hand and say "I will" at the end. I do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of student senator and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the Kansas State University Student Governing Association.
I will.
Awesome. So if you want to take a chance to just introduce yourself, so your name and pronouns, your major, your hometown, and your favorite smell. And B, if you also want to share how you heard about the Student Senate opportunity, I think that would be cool too.
Hi, everybody. My name is B. Dennis. I am a drama therapy graduate student here on campus. I am originally from Orlando, Florida. There's only 5 drama therapy programs in the US, and this is the only one in the center of the country. My favorite smell is probably the French lilac body spray that I have. And I heard about the position on the Graduate Student Senate I work in the Center for Student Involvement. I am their graduate assistant. So I heard about it from all of our wonderful officers who I am very blessed to know and be friends with. And I'm looking forward to getting to know and be friends with the rest of you. Thank you.
Awesome. With that, we will go ahead and move into committee reports for the evening. Are there any committee chairs that would like to give a report tonight? Chair Pondillo.
Oh, it's okay. I'm blind. Oh, I'm blind. Oh my gosh. Okay, hey guys. So this is 3 out of 4 speeches I have to give about DPF. DPF is allocated through DEI. You hit the next slide. So these are all events that we have funded so far. There was one that we recently reviewed. Bless you. There's one that we just recently reviewed that did not meet our criteria, and we did not fund that. But here's a breakdown. If you want it, let me know. Next one. This is like the starting allocation. So we had 152,000 roughly. In reserves, we have 122,000. Amount that we have allocated, 124,000. And then left to allocate, that is not right. I didn't change that number. It should be like 20, less than 20. It should be like 18 or 19. But with the remaining applications we have, if they are fully funded, we should have about 8,000 in reserves. Not reserves, allocation budget. Sorry, I'm a mess. Any questions?
Thanks, Joseph. Are there any questions for Chair Pondillo?
Please throw them at me.
Senator Blood.
Can you talk about the approval process for your allocation?
Yeah, I would love to. So how it works is my committee has to meet quorum. These voting members, which are 6 senators, 2 people appointed from the DMSA, 2 people appointed from International Service, School Service, and then 2 at large at least, are voting members. We have also ex officio, doesn't matter. They don't vote. I do love them though. Love you guys, love you, Peyton. And so what happens is we review them under stipulations outlined in, I think it's the statutes. 24. Yep. 24. My man. Look at you, Senate Ops. Anyways, and so what happens then is through us looking and reviewing them, we give them questions, and then I formulate allocation sheet. I break down each thing. So like promotion, LES fee, which is lecturer, speaker, entertainer fee. What else? Rentals, so like films, rooms, and other categories, which can include food, and other things that are not outlined within those other categories. So once those are all broken down, at the bottom, there is a signature for me to validate that I was there in presence, and all of the things are official, all of the things are in regulation, and my advisor signs it to make sure everything is official and in regulations. So last week, we had one that wasn't open to all K-State students, and my committee kind of understood that immediately. They did their due diligence, and they ended up rejecting the funds to the organization.
Caucus Leader Kidd.
Do you have any data to share with this body regarding historical trends of how much money has been at the start of the past couple of fiscal years for the committee to allocate, along with how much the reserves have been utilized in these last few years too? Yeah, not on me, but I can definitely like come back next week and share some information with you guys. So, yeah.
Any further questions? Senator Bannister.
Point of clarification, for left to allocate, do you mean you have like 28,000 left, or is there somewhere else?
So left to allocate would be, so sorry I messed this up, y'all. So left to allocate, you would just subtract the 152 minus the 124, and that's the left to allocate.
That's like
That'd be like the difference. I'm so
28,000.
sorry.
Senator Blood.
I had a follow-up on the previous question. Could you outline why, like, your allocations don't have to be approved by the student senate?
Yeah, I would love to. So at the end of the day, there is these organizations that come to us, right? And sometimes DEI being diversity, equity, inclusion, we want to make it equitable for people to come to present to feel as if their funds are there. They have to like be a jury of their peers in a sense, right? K-State population isn't quite diverse. So these group of individuals that are diverse are the jury in which they can allocate funds to these diverse groups. And this is essentially a safe space. And so I think that while it is kind of like, why does student allocations go to perform in front of Senate versus DEI? I think at the end of the day, my committee and committees on forward will uphold, statutes, uphold regulations. I review it. I let Amy review it. Then I have my advisor review it, and then I present it in front of my committee. So there's a lot of processes and steps that go into it to ensure that that is upholding statutes.
Are there any further questions? Okay, seeing none, thanks so much, Joseph. You can take your seat.
Thank you.
And with that, are there any further,
I'll be back next week for y'all.
are there any further committee chairs that would like to give a report tonight? Chair Long.
Alrighty, SAC allocates like 3 lump sum amounts every year, that being open house, sports clubs, and now ACT. ACT is the active competition team, so all your like engineering design teams and all the ag judging teams and stuff like that. That opened up on Friday, so if you are part of one of those or in one, please start submitting those forms in the Work Central. I currently have, what would it be? 15% of the ones I expect to come in, and the budget is 50% requested. So sports club was 300% utilized this year. I expect, 420%, I apologize. I expect ACT to do the same thing.
Is that it?
Yes.
Are there any questions for Chair Long? Awesome. Seeing none, you may take your seat. Are there any further committee chairs that would like to give a report tonight? Chair Phillips.
Bryce, you can minimize that for now. That'll be later. I appreciate it though. I forgot to do earlier.
All right, hello, everyone. Quick update on the SSF front. We had our fingers crossed last Thursday meeting of the semester today. Huge shout out to my committee for meeting more than once per week. Quick round of applause. Thank you so much for the hard work on that. And thank you to everyone who came to our meetings as well. I know I really appreciate having all of that participation and feedback. So quick update, we finished up student activity fee. You will see that in introduction today. That's what that Excel spreadsheet that Bryce pulled up was for. We also finished up the rec. So you will see that in introduction next week. So it'll be a busy time for SSF. In addition, we begin our review of SGA starting on Monday. So if you would like to know how we spend our money in SGA that we receive from the student services fee and would like to talk about how you would like that to be spent in the future, please feel free to join us at 5:30 on Mondays over in the CSI conference room. And then finally, we wrapped up our question and answer session today of Adibus, which was our proposal. And we are going to be deciding on that a little bit later on in the year. I'll keep everyone posted on exactly when that happens, but I am free for any questions.
Are there any questions for Chair Phillips? Okay, seeing none, you may take your seat. Are there any further committee chairs that would like to give a report tonight? Seeing none, are there any directors that would like to give a report tonight? Director Lotta.
All right, hey team. I'm Ross Latta. I'm the Basic Needs Director. I want to talk a little bit about what's going on with Cats Cupboard this semester and the upcoming semesters. So if you don't know already, Cats Cupboard has a new location. It's next to it's an old abandoned church kind of next to Weefald. I don't know how to describe the location. But if you want to forward the slides, this is kind of some pictures of what it's going to look like once you enter once you enter the building. And it's going to be much better than the small space that they utilize now if you've ever been there. So it's a really big achievement for them. And then you can go to the next slide. And this just has some like different setup of what the layout's going to look like, the space and all of the features that it'll be able to utilize. And then it is going to have a loading dock, and that's probably one of the biggest achievements is that they'll be able to get large shipments from organizations like harvesters and things like that, where they can just drop off their food. And so it's going to increase the amount of items that Cats Cupboard has to offer our students. With that being said, Cats Cupboard just launched a system called Pantry Soft. It's going to be able, we'll know how much items are going in and out of Cats Cupboard, and then what items are in need and what items aren't in need. So then they can better provide the services for the students that they're needing. The tentative opening date is going to be in the fall of 2023. That being said, it's going to be a soft launch because it's a new space and they're just not sure exactly how they want to utilize it or what it's all going to look like. So that's going to be really exciting, and definitely be on the lookout for all that good information. With that being said, Shelley Williams, the director of Cats Cupboard, is looking for some information from Student Government Association. And so I'll be sending out a Google form tonight to everyone in SGA that's going to have some information, that's going to have some questions like what would be a great new limits slogan for Cats Cupboard. So for example, obviously our supplies aren't endless, and so they have to have a slogan to say to the students. So right now the slogan is take what you need, give what you can, be mindful of your fellow Wildcat. They would like something new as they're opening a new space, so that that poll will just give you kind of an idea of what they're looking at for some new options. And if you have any suggestions for that limit slogan, please leave that there. They're also wanting to know what would be good hours for the location to be open. So right now they're really struggling meeting all the students' needs as their operating hours. So if you could kind of input what would be good times for students to come and shop, that'd be really useful for them to use. Finally, with the new loading dock, they are working on building some new partnerships. So that's really going to be very beneficial for them and the item that they'll be able to have. So is there any questions for me?
Yeah, thanks, Ross. Are there any questions? Caucus Leader Kidd.
So the property that Cats Cupboard will be occupying, you said it was like an abandoned church?
It's that building that's north of SAE, south of Platt, on the west side of Denison, the one that had like the roof blow off during the last windstorm.
ACM, Campus Ministry. Okay, so it's owned by the university, right? Is that what you said? Foundation owns it.
The foundation owns it.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Caucus Leader Kidd.
Sorry, go ahead, question. So would there be any like renovations happening, you said?
Yeah, so the pictures are what it's going to look like on the inside. They just released this on Friday. What kind of the design layout is, and there's some areas that they're still like developing to see like how they're going to utilize that space. They're just not for sure. They're still working on some partnerships like on campus organizations that they're working on to better utilize the space.
And
So
did you say a dollar amount?
I have we don't know yet.
Nope.
There was a little bit more information on the foundation's website as well. So if you go to ksufoundation.org and just search Cats Cupboard, there's a whole article about it on there as well that has like, I think it has the names of the people that gave the gift. Yep, stuff like that. Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you, Ross. You can take your
Thank you,
seat.
guys.
Are there any further directors that would like to give a report tonight? Chief of Staff Richenberg.
Extra loud today. Yeah, still short. You maybe got me over 5'1" or something. I don't know. Doing something different. A shout out to Ross for being such an amazing director for us. So shout out Ross. I have to head out early, and so do the rest of our branch. So I quickly am just gonna come up and talk about just a couple of things. Higher Ed Day is on Wednesday. So a couple of us in the Legislative Advocates Group is gonna be traveling to Topeka, hopefully on Wednesday. If the Chiefs win, the legislator might cancel their session. So that's TBD depending on the Chiefs win. But hopefully we'll get to go on Wednesday to advocate. We're advocating on a couple of things. a lot of student affordability and campus infrastructure, kind of the two main things that we're going to be advocating for this year. And then trying to think of other things that are coming up. We're getting running on Big 12 on the Hill, which would be super exciting, where all the branch heads, including myself and Logan, will be traveling to DC for a couple of days to also be advocating on behalf of higher education with some of the other Big 12 schools as well. And then finally, this is a shameless plug again, but Blue Key Honor Society applications are open. They close next Thursday at midnight. So if you're going to be a senior, which is 90 credit hours by next fall, go ahead and apply. You have to have a 3.0 GPA and you have to be on campus for both of those semesters. So you can't be traveling abroad that fall or spring semester of your senior year. Super great opportunity. It's we really focus on like leadership, scholarship, and all those fun things. And it's a really great opportunity to serve K-State in a different light and be able to directly affect students and their development. So if you have any questions about that or any cabinet positions, let me know, but I'm happy to help where needed. That's it.
Thanks, Marta. Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, you can take your seat. And with that, are there any further directors that would like to give a report tonight? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move into approval of allocations. Up for approval tonight, we have Bill 75. This is the fiscal year 2023 student allocation to the KSU Photo Club. They requested 1,300 and were recommended 1,000 for their Society for Photographic Education National Conference. And for those of you that are sticklers, there is an account number on there now. With that, is there a motion to approve the allocation? Chair Long.
Sorry, I wasn't paying attention. I'm approving the case of Photo Club 1.
Yes.
Yes, I approve the allocation. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the allocations. Are there any objections? Seeing none, the allocation will stand approved. And with that, we'll go ahead and move into final action for the evening. And first up, we have Bill 74 as the fiscal year 2023 allocation of open house funds. If the author will please come forward. Were any changes made?
Yes. As discussed in Senate, we added the requested amounts alongside the recommended amounts and took off the FIS numbers because that doesn't really affect the passage of the bill.
Your first rights to debate.
Awesome. So yeah, this is open to all colleges. We only got 4 requests in this year. Generally, it is a college council-like organization, but those have significantly declined since COVID. So for the most part, it's honestly just the dean's office or some representative asking for funding. Looking at the request and recommendation amounts, you might wonder why some got all of it and some others didn't. The ones that got all of their, so I guess ag and business came forward very specific line item budgets, exactly what they're going to spend them on. And education engineering came forward with more general, we would like X amount of dollars per organization to give them to do something with. It also happened that the more specific budgets were half as much as the more general budgets. So we allocated based on that. So the ones that knew exactly what they're going to spend the money on got that amount of money, and the more general ones got a little bit less. Committee allocated it well, all by the statutes and everything, and it really should pass.
Thanks, Jacob. Seeing as that was debate in the positive, we're now seeking speeches in the negative. Caucus Leader Kidd, is that a point of information?
Yeah, so I didn't see this last week, but Steel Ring line 31, the last line for the recommendation, looks like it's 2.243 when it should be a comma. Okay.
Oh, and there's a misplaced comma.
Okay, I mean, it looks weird on the request.
Yes. Thank you, Marcus.
Yeah.
So seeing as that was a speech in the positive, we're now seeking speeches in the negative. Vice Chair Hoffman?
Point of information, is that a comma in front of the?
Yeah, we got that one too. Thank you. Still seeking speeches in the negative. Any further speeches in the positive? And any further speeches at all? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move into a roll call vote on Bill 74.
Okay, Anderson.
Here. Yes.
Bannister,
Yay.
Barron,
Yes, by proxy.
Bellamy,
Yes.
Flood,
Okay.
Broughton,
Yes.
Brown, Compton,
Yes.
Coy,
Yes.
Questa,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
DePaz,
Yes.
Dole,
Yes.
Griffith,
Yep.
Heatherman,
Yes, by proxy.
Hoffman,
Yep.
Hubnig,
Yes.
Hammond,
Yes.
Kappelman,
Yes.
Gershon, Kidd,
Yes.
Krimer,
Yes.
Hensy,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Midall, Morello, Murphy,
Yes.
Moretti, Navarro,
Yes.
O'Malley,
Yes.
Lowry, Pelton,
Yes.
Phillips,
Yes.
Pilchard,
Yes.
Pondello,
Yes.
Rogers,
Yeah.
Syatt Carly,
Yes.
Syatt Nick,
Yes, by proxy.
Salmon,
Yes, by proxy.
Schweier, Spindler,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Strout,
Yes.
Suchanik,
Yes.
Topper,
Yes.
Timmon, Thomas,
Yes.
Bulgamore, and Wolf. Okay, Bill 74 will pass 42 to 0.
Thanks, everybody. Seeing as that was final action on Bill 74, we're going to go ahead and move into final action on Bill 76. If the author will please come forward. Were any changes made?
Yes, a couple. So in the title, the word recite was changed to the word provide. And then two whereas clauses were added at the bottom. So those read, whereas the timing of the address affirms the mission of the executive branch following the recess period. And whereas giving an address to all the branches during the first Senate of the fall semester will increase interbranch leadership and collaboration amongst all branches. And in the be it enacted clause, section B, the timing of the address was changed from the fourth Senate after elections to the first Senate of the fall semester.
Your first rights to debate.
Thank you. So I don't really have a lot to say because I think the bill speaks for itself, but I would note a couple things. So the first is that it passed unanimously from Senate Exec. And after listening to some of the recommendations that our current student body president had about kind of the timing of the event and what that should look like and having the best timing for the most amount of updates and things that they wish to do in the upcoming term, we all came to a decision that this would be the best for our organization moving forward to kind of say out loud the goals that it has and also be a good opportunity for all branches of SGA to kind of be in one room, which doesn't happen very often. So I would encourage passing this bill today for our organization. So thank you.
Thanks, Carson. Seeing as that was a speech in the positive, we're now seeking speeches in the negative. Senator Blood,
Point of information,
go ahead.
can we go ahead, update it to cross out the KSU SBA before student senate? Just have to say student senate.
Yes. Seeing as that was a debate in the positive, we're now seeking speeches in the negative. Are there any further speeches in the positive? And are there any further speeches at all? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move into a roll call vote on Bill 76.
All right, Anderson,
Yes.
Bannister,
Yay.
Barron,
Yes, by proxy.
Bellamy,
Yes.
Blood,
Yes.
Broughton,
Yes.
Brown, Compton,
Yes.
Coy,
Yes.
Questa,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
DePaz,
Yes.
Dole,
Yes.
Griffith,
Yes.
Heatherman,
Yes, by proxy.
Hoffman,
Yeah.
Hubnig,
Yes.
Hammond,
Yes.
Kappelman,
Yes.
Gershon, Kidd,
Yes.
Krimer,
Yes.
Hensy,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Midall, Morello, Murphy, Moretti, Navarro,
Yep.
O'Malley,
Yes.
Lowry, Pelton,
Yes.
Phillips,
Yes.
Pilchard,
Yes.
Bondillo,
Yes.
Rogers,
Yeah.
Syatt Carly,
Yes.
Syatt Nick,
Yes.
Salmon,
Yes, by proxy.
Schweier, Spindler,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Sprout,
Yes.
Suchanik,
Yes.
Talbert,
Yes.
Timon,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Bulgamore, and Wolf. Going back to the past, Pilchard.
Yes.
Okay. And Bill 76 will pass 41 to 0.
Thanks, everybody. We'll go ahead and move into introduction of allocations now, if there is a motion to consider the allocations. Chair Long,
I move to consider the allocations. Second. Thank you.
it's been moved and seconded to consider the allocations. So first up, we have Bill 77, which is the fiscal year 2023 student allocation. The American Nuclear Society KSU student section, they requested $1,000 and were recommended $1,000. The ANS Student Conference. Next up, we have Bill 78. This is the fiscal year 2023 student allocation to the Architectural Engineering Institute competition team. They requested $900 and were recommended $900 for the AEI International Student Design Competition. Bill 79, the fiscal year 2023 student allocation to the Illumination Engineering Society. They requested $600 and were recommended $600 for the Illuminating Engineering Society Annual Conference. Bill 80 is the fiscal year 2023 student allocation to the Japanese Yosakoi Dance Club. They requested $300 and were recommended $300 for the California Cherry Blossom Festival. Next is Bill 81, the fiscal year 2023 student allocation to minorities in agriculture, natural science, or natural resources and related sciences. They requested $1,000 and were recommended $1,000 for the National Manners Conference. Bill 82 is the fiscal year 2023 student allocation to the National Society of Black Engineers. They requested $800 and were recommended $200 for the NSBE Annual National Conference. We have the fiscal year 2023 student allocation to On the Spot Improv. They requested $6,000 and were recommended $5,500 for Dell Fest. And we have Bill 84, the fiscal year 2023 student allocation to Pi Sigma Epsilon. They requested $1,000 and were recommended $500 for the Pi Sigma Epsilon 2023 National Convention. Fiscal year Bill 85, the fiscal year 2023 student allocation to the Pre-Veterinary Medicine Club. They requested $400 and were recommended $400. The American Pre-Veterinary Medical Association Symposium. And last, but very much not least, is Bill 86, the fiscal year 2023 student allocation to Ratio Christi. They requested $800 and were recommended $750 for Ratio Christi, the Problem of Evil. Are there any questions or corrections for the allocations? Chair Phillips.
I'm sorry, this is really nitpicky. On Bill 78, line 30, there should be a comma after.
Thank you, Chair Phillips. Are there any further questions or corrections? Chair Long.
Provide a point of information, right?
Sure.
Yeah. NSBE was recommended according to their request because they previously received an allocation. The max we received this year.
Thank you for that clarification. Are there any further questions or corrections for the allocations? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move into introduction of legislation for the evening. Up first, we have Bill 87. If there is a motion to consider Bill 87. Senator Griffith.
I move to consider Bill 87.
It's been moved and seconded to consider Bill 87. If the author will please come forward. Adding what your graphic?
Yeah.
I'll take it. Chair Bondillo.
Summarize.
It's been moved and seconded to allow the author to summarize. Are there any objections? Seeing none, you can summarize.
Well, thank you all. I'm going to summarize the last part. The whereas clauses, I feel lay it out pretty well, so I'm going to stick to those. But once we get to the recommendation section, it'll get to the point where it needs summarization. So Bill 222387, adjustment of the student activity fee, student services fee agreement. Authors Blake Phillips, sponsors the Student Services Fee Committee. Whereas the student activity fee enhances the student experience at Kansas State University by providing funding opportunities to individuals and student organizations. Whereas the student activity fee currently provides funding for campus organizations through the Diversity Programming Fund, campus organizations, multicultural student organizations, open house, sports clubs, and academic competition teams funding. Whereas the student activity fee currently provides funding to two institutional services, the Center for Advocacy Response Education Office and the UFM Community Learning Center. Whereas the student activity fee provides funding for graduate students to present research at conferences through the Graduate Student Council. Whereas the Student Services Fee Committee is dedicated to ensuring the financial well-being of the student services fee. Whereas in order to ensure the financial well-being of the student services fee, decreases are necessary during this review cycle. Whereas the Student Services Fee Committee deemed a decrease of $55,041 to the Diversity Programming Fund was appropriate to realign funding with utilization trends. Whereas DPF has a reserve account with a current balance of about $120,000. Whereas in order to supplement DPF's decrease, the Student Services Fee Committee deemed that allocating $40,000 each year from the DPF reserve would help DPF continue providing a valuable service to students. Whereas the Student Services Fee Committee deemed that a decrease of $8,289 to campus organizations provided the least impact to students seeking funds to travel or host events while balancing the need to reduce budgets. Whereas a 15% decrease would align campus organizations' funding with utilization trends. Whereas the Student Services Fee Committee deemed a decrease of $5,048 to the Graduate Student Council would not significantly reduce the ability of Graduate Student Council to provide funding for graduate students to travel. Whereas the academic competition teams and sports clubs budgets tend to be over requested by about 300% each year. Whereas the Student Services Fee Committee deemed that a decrease of $4,407 to academic competition teams and $2,515 to sports clubs provided the least impact to students participating in these teams while balancing the need to reduce budgets. Whereas sports clubs currently are their own line item on the Student Services Fee, whereas sports clubs should be listed as a line item under the student activity fee due to its similar nature to other student activity fee entities. Whereas the Student Services Fee Committee deemed that a decrease of $8,289 to the CARE office provided the least impact to sexual assault prevention efforts while balancing the need to reduce budgets. Whereas the Student Services Fee Committee deemed that removing open house from the student services fee would not significantly impact the student experience. Whereas the Student Services Fee Committee deemed that open house funds primarily benefit prospective students rather than current students. Whereas open house funds requests have decreased year over year. Whereas UFM is currently classified as an institutional service, which is defined as an organization whose sole purpose is to provide services to Kansas State University students. Whereas the Student Services Fee Committee deemed that UFM student services fee funding has a greater impact on the general Manhattan community than the K-State student experience. Whereas the Student Services Fee Committee deemed that the Lou Douglas honorarium provided by UFM student services fee funds could be requested through alternative sources of funding. Whereas during the review cycle, the Center for Student Involvement and Student Services Fee Committee deemed that $50,000 should be allocated for Safe Ride each year, which is currently an internally budgeted program in the Center for Student Involvement. Whereas Safe Ride should be a line item of the student activity fee, and whereas the Student Services Fee Committee voted 7-2 to 0 to recommend the following student services agreement to Student Senate. Be it enacted that. And Bryce, if you will pull up the graphic. So there's a lot going on here. I'm going to hopefully walk you all through this a little bit easier with this Excel sheet that I put together. So I need to be able to see this. So on the left-hand side, that current column, this is what we currently fund under the student activity fee. So the current entities on there are the Diversity Programming Fund, campus organizations, multicultural student organizations, open house, GSC, ACT, CARE, and UFM. So that totals up to about $358,000. The changes that we made are several. The blue highlighting on the screen are entities that are still, sorry, Marcus, that are still remaining on the student activity fee with these changes. So you can see DPF, they received a decrease of about 36%. Campus orgs, about a decrease of 15%. Multicultural student orgs received a continuance. Open house funding was removed from the student services fee, so that will not be receiving funding in the future. Graduate Student Council went down 21%, ACT down 5%, CARE office down 20%. UFM is another entity that would be removed from the student services fee. Those are the two red ones. And then in green, these are entities that are being added to the student activity fee. So sports clubs was added. It was its own line item, and they're receiving a 5% decrease in funding. And Safe Ride is also being added, and that's a new entity that has not been a line item before. So those are all the changes that we made. And so now you can see the new entities on the side with their funding amounts. So if you look purely from old student activity fee to new student activity fee, it only looks like the committee decreased the allocations by about $600. However, when you compare the original entities that were on the fee, we actually decreased the student activity fee by just over $100,000. So there was a lot of hard decisions put into this that were really tough, but these were the decisions that we best decided upon to help balance the need to reduce budgets as well as take care of our entities. A couple of notes that I did want to make. So DPF in this new contract would receive $40,000 each year from reserves. So that amount, that $97,000 amount is actually $137,000 that they'll have to allocate each year for the next 3 years. And then the second note is on multicultural student orgs. This funding actually comes from reserves each year. So any decrease that we make to that fund does not affect how much students or what students would be paying on the fee for that. Students don't pay on the fee for multicultural student organizations right now because it comes from reserves. So I hope that kind of clears up all the changes that were made. If you have any other questions about that, please feel free to let me know, but I'll hit on just a couple other contract specific things in here. There we go. So the only things that I wanted to hit on, that third section, you can see what those funds will be. The fourth, this defines what an institutional service is. The fifth defines our multicultural student organization funding and how it is pulled from the reserve each year. It specifically goes to the Asian American Student Union, Black Student Union, Hispanic American Leadership Organization, and the Native American Student Association, who each get $3,500 per year to host their Heritage Month events. Campus organizations, they just have to adhere to their guidelines. The Diversity Programming Fund, this specifies that they'll get $40,000 each year from reserves and that their decisions are not up to Student Senate approval, as we talked about a little bit earlier today. Sports clubs as well. I actually have a friendly amendment that I need to make. I need to strike that A section and re-letter the following sections. So basically, if they don't spend money, it goes back to the sports club's reserve. Same with diversity programming, just establishes their reserve account. Number 10 also closes out the academic competition team's reserve account. That one's a little bit weird. Each year, the funds that aren't used by our academic competition teams build up in that account. And at the end of 3 years, that entire balance goes back into the reserve for contingencies, which is our big reserve account for all of our student activity fee entities. That account, the academic competition team's reserve, can't really be pulled out from. So we just decided to put it into the reserve for contingencies once and for all. So with that, that is the student services fee agreement. Feel free to let me know if you have any questions.
Thanks, Blake. Are there any questions or corrections for the author? Chair Long?
Which part of the A on sports did you strike?
The $16,000 a year from reserves. And the reason that I struck that, I talked with Amy, we don't actually have that much in the budget in order to do that each year. So we will talk about that in committee.
Are there any further questions or corrections? Okay, seeing none, thanks, Blake. You can take your seat. With that, is there a motion to consider Bill 88? Senator Blood.
Move to consider Bill 88 and 89 together.
It's been moved and seconded to consider Bill 88 and 89 together. If the author will please come forward.
Bill 22-2388, amendment to the KSU SGA statutes regarding EOF guidelines, authors Brian Blood and Kate Thomas, sponsors the Tuition Enhancements Committee. Whereas the Kansas State University Student Governing Association, KSU SGA, should continue to update their governing documents to better reflect the committee structure. Whereas the Kansas Board of Regents, KBOR memo, Educational Opportunity Fund, EOF, at state universities sent on June 6, 2003, states that the program should be campus-based and that KBOR oversight would be discontinued, whereas KSU SGA has the ability to amend their informal guidelines to provide the best use of EOF funds, whereas KSU SGA Student Senate passed Resolution 22-2325 on September 22nd, 2022, and Resolution 222325 was certified on September 30th, 2022, stating that in the opinion of KSU SGA, all campus entities that employ students should be obligated to increase their student compensation rates to regionally competitive levels, whereas effort should be made for KSU SGA to continue to support the students we represent, and whereas entrusting the Tuition Enhancements Committee with more flexibility to determine the financial allocation will enable the committee to best allocate EOF funds based on the true demonstrated needs of requesting entities and the students receiving the funds. Be it enacted that Section 1, Chapter 25 of the KSU SGA statute shall be amended to read as follows. So in Section 250101, it's striking EOF committee and changing it to Tuition Enhancements Committee, and then adding that the Tuition Enhancements Committee shall overview these informal guidelines once per calendar year. And then later on, it changes some of the dollar amounts. So it changes the scholarships that EOF can fund to $1,000 each, and adds a 3-month position to graduate positions, and then adds section 250205, stating that the Tuition Enhancements Committee reserves the right to implement more restrictive financial guidelines as necessary due to the availability and needs of funds for specific entities, up to and including providing specific financial guidelines for specific entities of EOF funds, and then crosses out the old 25-0205, stating that wages are calculated at federal minimum wage. And then section 2, this legislation shall take effect upon passage by the student senate and signature of the student body president after the beginning of fiscal year 2024 for Kansas State University.
Thanks, Brian. Are there any questions or corrections? Coordinator Lynn.
What's the breakdown of dollars per hour for the changed numbers here on, like, the graduate positions are funded, like the 3-month positions and the 3,300? Do you know the dollar per hour breakdown?
I think when we looked at it, it was close to about 12, but
It is 1239.
yeah. And basically to calculate the 3-month position, kind of took that average, it was around $1,100, so.
I have one, Brian.
Yeah.
On line 102, instead of saying specific entities of EOF funds, can we change of to receiving EOF funds?
Sure.
Thank you. Are there any further, Chair Pondello?
Yeah, so what made you put in a 3-month position?
We had a few entities request funds for like a summer position. They had already had funding for like during the school year, but really wanted their entities to be, or their student workers and graduate assistants to be able to work over the summer as well. Unfortunately, we couldn't fund those fully, and so we had to find a different way of funding them. So it just gives more flexibility overall to the committee to do that.
Senator Griffin.
As someone who knows nothing about accounting, what do you mean by fiscal year 24?
That would start June of this year, or July, end of June.
So for anyone that doesn't know what a fiscal year is, it's the year that the university does its accounting and budgeting on. So we are currently in fiscal year 23. It ends on June 30th. Fiscal year 24 starts on July 1st. The way you can remember is that the fiscal year number is the year that it ends in. Anyway, Senator Huberdig.
Why was line 105 struck and not just changed to wages are calculated at a minimum of federal minimum wage, or like we want it to be funded at greater than or equal to?
Good question. We discussed this. This does enable, we do have some entities that have the ability to raise other funds. And so this would allow the committee to say, hey, maybe an entity has the ability to fund minimum wage, but then we would also have to fund minimum wage on top of that, because we can't take into consideration the other money. So this would allow us to say, bump someone up from minimum wage to say $12 an hour.
Go ahead.
So I have a concern and one. I know that sometimes graduate packages can come with benefits rather than just the salary they get taken. So with the wording that starts in line 100, is it possible to maybe like make it a bit more explicit that it's not to include benefits?
or if you're expecting to be a take-home salary?
So with the funding of like the GTA positions, like the 3-month, 9 months, 12-month, we don't fund any benefits. That dollar amount that you see there is the salary. We are not allowed to fund for their benefits packages. Chair Phillips?
Brian, can you give us context behind the changes made in lines 100 through 103? Like, where did that come about?
Yeah, that would just allow us, in the event that like we want to specify a specific dollar amount that they can use for, say, wages or scholarships, that we could do such a thing instead of just giving a lump sum of money.
Are there any further questions or corrections? Okay, seeing none, Brian, you can go ahead and move on to Bill 89.
Bill 222389, amendment to the KSU SGA statutes regarding SCTE guidelines. Authors Brian Blood and Kate Thomas, sponsors Tuition Enhancements Committee. Whereas the Kansas State University Student Governing Association, KSU SGA, should continue to update their governing documents to better reflect a committee structure. Whereas KSU SGA has the ability to amend their informal guidelines to provide the best use of student-centered tuition enhancement funds. Whereas KSU SGA Student Senate passed Resolution 222325 on September 22nd, 2022, and Resolution 222325 was certified on September 30th, 2022, stating that in the opinion of KSU SGA, all campus entities that employ students should be obligated to increase their student compensation rates to regionally competitive levels. Whereas efforts should be made for KSU SGA to continue to support the students we represent, and whereas entrusting the Tuition Enhancements Committee with more flexibility to determine the financial allocation will enable the committee to best allocate SCTE funds based on the true demonstrated need of the entities, of the requesting entities and the students receiving funds. Be it enacted that Section 1, Chapter 27 of the KSU SGA statute shall be amended to read as follows. It adds the Tuition Enhancements Committee shall overview these informal guidelines once per calendar year, and then strikes Section 270105, wages for student employees are calculated at federal minimum wage. Also renumbers sections 27-0102 and 0103 that were skipped to 03 and 04, and then adds the same section in 270104. The Tuition Enhancements Committee reserves the right to implement more restrictive financial guidelines as necessary due to the availability and needs of funds for specific entities, up to and including providing specific financial guidelines for requesting entities of SCTE funds. Section 2, this legislation shall take effect upon passage by the Student Senate and signature of the Student Body President after the beginning of fiscal year 24 for Kansas State University.
Thanks, Brian. Are there any questions or corrections on this bill? Okay, seeing none, you can take your seat. And with that, is there a motion to consider Bill 90? Chair Phillips?
I move to consider Bill 90. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to consider Bill 90. If the author will please come forward.
All right, Bill 222390, authors Jacob Long, sponsors Student Allocations Committee. Whereas Student Allocations Committee, SAC, utilizes the campus organization's line item of the student activity fee, which is dispersed from the reserve for contingencies account for its allocations. Whereas the current budget for SAC allocations is $54,979. Whereas Kansas State University Student Governing Association, KSUSGA, statutes stipulate that a maximum of 60% of the campus organization's line item may be used to fund travel events. Whereas as of February 5th, 2023, SAC has allocated 59% of its budget towards travel events. Whereas allocation of outstanding SAC budget requests would put the amount allocated towards travel events at 64%. Whereas KSUSGA statute stipulates that the Student Allocations Committee may disperse an additional $10,000 from the reserve for contingencies account into the campus organization's line item at the discretion of the chair and the approval of the Senate. Period on that, or semicolon. I missed that. Whereas this disbursement will raise the total campus organization's budget to $64,979. And whereas this additional disbursement will bring the amount allocated to travel events below 60% and into statutory compliance. Be enacted that Section 1. On passage by the Student Senate and signature of Student Body President, $10,000 be dispersed from NISA Con RSV into campus organization's line item.
Thanks, Jacob. Are there any questions or corrections for the author? Okay, Chair Phillips.
There should be a period instead of a semicolon on 30. Oh, next one.
Thank you. Any further questions or corrections? Okay, seeing none, thanks, Jacob. You can take your seat. With that, is there a motion to consider Resolution 58? Senator Griffith.
I move to consider resolution 58.
It's been moved and seconded to consider Resolution 58. If the author will please come forward.
Whereas Kansas State University believes that higher education should be accessible to all, whereas KSU Student Governing Association has a responsibility to advocate for practices that reduce financial stress, whereas KSU SGA's scholarship support plan identifies that outside scholarships should be widely advertised to current and future KSU students, whereas today the K-State Scholarship Network, KSN, is designed to connect students with internal KSU-specific scholarships, whereas the National Scholarship Providers Association estimates that 100 million in private scholarship money goes unawarded every year. Whereas failure to realize these resources places a greater barrier between students and their education, and whereas the KSN should take advantage of all possible opportunities to ease the financial burden on students. Be it resolved that Section 1, Kansas State University should explore the possibility of adding outside scholarships, especially those provided by its corporate partners, to the Kansas State Scholarship Network. And Section 2, upon passage by the Student Senate and signature by Student Body President, a copy of this resolution shall be sent to the Director of Student Financial Assistance, Robert Gamez.
Thanks, Brooke. Are there any questions or corrections for the author? Senator O'Malley.
Is there any chance there's a director of national?
We could absolutely send it to her also.
Will do. Any further questions or corrections? Okay, seeing none, thanks, Brooke. You can take your seat. And with that, we have exhausted our legislative agenda for the night, so we will go ahead and move into our second open period. Are there any second open period speakers this evening? Senator Kermer.
Just wanted to give a brief update. Probably saw my message in the group chat earlier, but the College of Architecture is currently in the process of searching for a new dean, and we had our first open forum today for one of the candidates, with 2 more next week. So if you have any questions that pertains to student government that I could ask in our closed forum meeting before, that'd be great. So just want to give you an update.
Thanks, Brandon. Are there any questions? Okay. Are there any further second open period speakers this evening? Okay, seeing none, Juan will take it away with Senate shoutouts.
Okay, a round of applause to Mr. and Mrs. Lynn Porter for their wedding, and may we wish them a prosperous future together. Shout out to Cowboys. Shout out to Evan Soup Game. Thank you, Patrick Mahomes. Go Chiefs. Father Phillips. Shout out to defunding SGA so we can bring back the carrier pigeon. Google Forms are bad. The Cat's Cupboard for providing for the student body. Shout out to me, Juan Pineda Gomez, for doing such a good job as pro tem. Thank you. And shout out to Blake for not summarizing after being given permission to.
Thanks, Juan. With that, I'll go ahead and do reference of legislation for the evening. Bills 77 through 86 and Bill 90 will be going to the Student Allocations Committee. Shout out Student Allocations. Bill 87 will be going to the Student Services Fee Committee. Bills 88 and 89 will be going to the Tuition Enhancements Committee. And Resolution 58 will be going to the Strategic Oversight Committee. And with that, we'll go ahead and move into our second roll call.
Okay, Anderson.
Here.
Bannister.
Here.
Bellamy.
Here.
Flood.
Here.
Broughton.
Here.
Brown. Compton.
Here.
Boyd.
Here.
Questa.
Here.
Dennis.
Here.
DePaz.
Here.
Dole.
Here.
Griffith.
Here.
Hoffman.
Yes.
Hubnig.
Here.
Cameron. Kappelman.
Here.
Kidd.
Here.
Kermer.
Here.
Kenzie.
Here.
Long,
Here.
Midall, Morello, Murphy, Moretti, Navarro,
Here.
O'Malley,
Here.
Lowry, Pelton,
Here.
Phillips,
Here.
Pilchard,
Here.
Bondillo,
Here.
Rogers, Saya,
Here.
Schweier, Spindler,
Here.
Stout,
Here.
Sprout,
Here.
Suchanik,
Here.
Talbert,
Here.
Timon, Thomas,
Here.
Bulgamore, and Wolf. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. With that, is there a motion to adjourn? Senator Griffith.
I move to adjourn this meeting until next Thursday, same time, same place.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn until next Thursday at the same time, at the same place. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we will stand adjourned at 8:32 PM.